What is happening inside your brain when you're trying to retrieve a very faint memory? I also wonder about that thing where you're actively trying to remember something, like a name, and after a good long think you're like, hey, it'll come to me. And the next day while you're making a sandwich your brain goes, Brian Stevenson. Does the brain just keep ticking in the background? Do I have to have the intent of still wanting to know this information? Like I haven't given up. Do asteroids fly into the sun? Edit. Cool. Mostly the answer is, not anymore. Everything that currently orbits the sun is moving at speeds that lie within a relatively narrow range that makes a stable orbit possible. Nothing outside that range is around anymore to tell its tale. But, there are still occasionally new objects that enter the solar system for the first time. Those objects aren't subject to the same survivorship restrictions. In theory they could arrive at basically any speed relative to the sun, including speeds slow enough that the sun would draw them in. These new objects seem to arrive every few years, or at least the ones we can see do. So far they have all been moving so fast they just visit for a bit and then take off again after a swing around the sun, but who knows? Is the age of the universe influenced by time dilation? In other words, we perceive the universe to be 13+ billion years old, but could there be other regions in space-time that would perceive the age of the universe to be much younger, older? Also, could this influence how likely it is to find intelligent life if, for example, regions that experience time much faster than other regions might be more likely to have advanced intelligent life than regions that experience time much more slowly? Not saying that areas that experience time much more slowly than us cannot be intelligent, but here on Earth we see the most evolution occur between generations. If we have had time to go through many generations, then we could be more equipped than life that has not gone through as many evolution cycles. And #X200b, edit, even within our own galaxy, is it wrong to think that planetary systems closer to the center of the galaxy would say that the universe is younger than planetary system on the outer edge of the galaxy like ours? And #X200b, edit 2, thanks for the gold, and it's crazy to see how many people took interest in this question. I guess it was in part inspired by the saying, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. The idea being that somewhere out there the universe is probably always celebrating its first birthday. Sure, a lot of very specific, and hard to achieve, conditions need to be met, but it's still cool to think about. How do particle accelerators isolate certain particles if particles are unavoidably everywhere? Aren't there many unaccounted for particles in the way of observation? From my understanding, one of the many things particle accelerators are used for is making two or more particles collide at a high speed. How can these two particles be isolated, and then properly aligned for a collision without other particles getting in the way? And if scientists want to collide particular particles, how do they physically transfer the desired particle into the accelerator? A particle accelerator starts with an ion source that makes ions of some specific type. For example, positive ions of hydrogen are just protons. These ions are accelerated by some means. Simple accelerators use a big electric voltages like in a tandem or Van de Graaff accelerator. The ions are then focused into a beam. One measures the current in the beam to determine the number of ions per second being placed on the target. Now, there may be particles everywhere, but most of them are due to the high-energy particle beam. Those that aren't, like natural radioactive decay or cosmic rays, are much smaller in number and are treated as an unwanted but quantified background. How far apart are stars in galactic star clusters? Today on APOD, the astronomy picture of the day, https://apod.nasa.gov/apod/astropics.html closing square bracket opening parenthesis https://apod.nasa.gov/apod/astropics.html closing parenthesis. There was a picture posted of a cluster of stars in our galaxy. The clump is, according to the article, about 120 light-years across with hundreds of thousands of stars. Some of these stars must be really, really close together. So the question is, how close together are most of these stars? Do they attract each other enough to form binaries, or more? How do they not just all clump together? And why are there star clusters like this? Thanks. At peak density, individual star systems can be as close as 0.1 parsec, 0.3 light-years, from each other in galactic clusters, cores mind you. 1/10 of a parsec is still roughly 20,626 astronomical units, which is 670x the distance between the Sun and Pluto, or about 1,917,352,957,951 miles lol. To put things into context, New Horizon, launched in 2006, is moving at 12.6 kilometers per second, and it would take over 6 millennia, 6,325 years, to reach a star 0.10 parsecs away. Voyager 1 is moving at 16.9 kilometers per second, and it could do it in a shade under 5 millennia, 4,735 years. Space is vast. Why are certain electrons only excited by specific wavelengths? I was reading about why glass is transparent to visible light. The stated reason was that photons of visible light don't have enough energy to kick the electrons within the silicon atoms up to a higher orbital, so they instead pass through the atom. Thinking about this from a chemistry viewpoint, this lines up with what I was taught. But thinking about this from a physics, engineering standpoint, I'm a little confused. Visible light is just an electromagnetic wave with a frequency of several hundred terahertz. Electromagnetic waves being a propagating electric field and magnetic field at 90 degrees to one another. Electrons are influenced by both electric and magnetic fields. So it doesn't make sense to me that an electromagnetic wave of a particular frequency would just be ignored by an electron. Surely even these frequencies that don't interact with the electrons still impart some energy, right? Can someone please shed some light on this for me? Ask Science AMA series. I am a leading researcher in the areas of cannabis plant science and plant physiology at Volcani Agriculture Research Center, in Israel. My name is Neerat Bernstein and I am researching cannabis plant sciences, and the best ways to grow medical cannabis. Ask me anything. Medical cannabis is a fast-growing field and researchers are delving into the implications of cannabis for medical purposes. Israel hosts one of the world's leading primary research facilities in the area of medical cannabis. I was the first scientist in Israel to study the plant-based science of medical cannabis. I and my team work to advance the academic and applied science of the cannabis plant. Their objective is to develop basic and practical knowledge of secondary metabolism in health-beneficial plants, including cannabis, to contribute to human health and food security, while protecting the environment. Here are some links to some of my research: https://www.frontierson.org/articles/10.33896/FPLS.2019.00736/ full-https://articles/abs/pe/s0926669018310115x https://www.frontierson.org/articles/10.33896/FPLS.2019.01369/full. I will be available at 12 p.m. Pacific Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 19 UT. Ask me anything. Username: U_Israelin SF. What is the biggest science misconception about the cannabis plant? And what has your research told you about the best way to grow it? Is it sustainable to still farm it outdoors as the world gets warmer, or will future cannabis farms be in fully controlled environments?